It's a pleasure to see everyone here. Today is July the 25th, 2024, 6 o'clock p.m. This is a regularly scheduled Livingston Parish Council meeting. All public notices have been sent out, so this is the official meeting of the parish. It's great to see so many faces and so many people here tonight, familiar faces and ones I don't know as well. Let me say this before we get started. It is a great thing to live in America and to defend our democratic republic. We are fortunate people across this entire world to have such a good government where everyone sitting up here has the same voice as everyone who sits in the audience, as everyone who's watching us on television tonight. So I want to say thank you for getting out of your homes to come and make Livingston Parish a better place. Let's get started. As we always have in the past, we always start with the prayer. So today, Miss Erin Sandifer will be in charge of the invocation.
Heavenly Father, thank you that we live in this great country so that we can gather together and communicate with each other and have our system of government in place. We ask you to bless our land, bless our people, bless one another. Help us to do as much good as often as we can, whenever we can, every single minute of every single day. We bless you, Lord, and we need your guidance and your help in this meeting and in this process that we're going through. We're calling on you. Amen.
Amen. Is there Miss Andrea Bell here this evening? Miss Andrea, would you be so kind to come to the microphone? I would like to ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Andrea Bell is one of the future upcoming pillars in the community of Denham Springs.
Yes.
So I just wanted y'all to recognize Miss Andrea.
Nice to meet everybody. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Miss Andrea. All right, just a couple quick reminders. Check your cell phones. Make sure they don't blast out too loud. Also, a reminder to all the council members, clerks, and anyone who comes up to speak, please put your microphones facing toward your mouth when you speak so we get a good, clear audio on the television. And also to let anyone know, if any item on the agenda you wish to speak on, please raise your hand real high and wave it so I can see it, and we'll get you to the microphone. And if that does happen, try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and try not to repeat something that's already been said 2 or 3 times. So just for the sake of an efficient meeting. First item we normally have is presentations. I don't think before we get started, let's make sure we have enough council members to have this quorum. Ms. Sandy, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Shavers?
Here.
Mr. Erdy?
Here.
Mr. Coates?
Here.
Mr. Mangus?
Here.
Mr. Taylor is absent. Mr. Goff?
Here.
Ms. Sandifer? Here. Mr. Wascombe?
Here.
Mr. Watts?
Here.
All right, I don't think there's any presentations for the night, so the first item would be to adopt the minutes from the June 13th, 2024 regular meeting of the council. Those were all prepared, correct, Ms. Sandy? Okay, so a motion to adopt the June 13th, June 27th, and July 1st special meeting. Is there a motion to adopt those minutes? Mr. Mangus makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lonnie Watts. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is there any opposed? None. That motion carries unanimous. Parish President's report. Mr. Randy, did you have something you want to talk about, or Mr. Gilbert, or you want to?
Guys, in the interest of saving time, we did a new handout tonight, and if y'all want me to report on them next meeting, we can do the same thing. But we had attended on putting these handouts in your package, and if y'all had any questions on them, then y'all can ask me and I'll come up here. But basically, it's what has been done in the parish and into your specific district. And that includes permits, includes public works, it includes mosquito. That's going to come up one day, mosquito.
You need a vacation, right?
Yeah, I need a vacation. I meant litter, and including we even have some essays where the guys that's picking up litters actually has to write an essay on that. So we got all those things in your package, and we got if you got it.
This will be great. So you'll be putting this together?
And each meeting you will receive.
Well, that's good. That way we can look at them. If we have questions, we can bring them up.
Something similar to this, guys.
Thank you so much, Randy.
Thank you.
For next item, let's go to Addendum A1. This is of a resolution authorizing the parish president to enter into a contract negotiations for a contract agreement with WSP USA to perform planning services for the master land use plan and also the zoning ordinance and land development code updates. I think we're all familiar with that. Was Mr. Fournier here? Mr. Jerome, did you want to come up? You can sit over wherever there's a microphone. Is there one for him, Miss Raven?
Good.
Are you good up there? Okay.
I'm good right here. Thank you.
You want to give us just a quick update on
Sure. The parish submitted or solicited requests for qualifications for firms that could do some planning work for us. My understanding, having talked with the grants and department, 3 submittals were made. A team of internal was put together to grade those, and WSP ended up being the top firm. All right, so I think tonight you're going to be giving the administration the approval to go ahead and enter into a contract with them. Okay, so
and I've got some names together for the task force too, so I'll get
great.
with you after this.
Okay, and that'll fill out the task force.
Right. And if there's anyone else that have anyone specific that you want on the task force, please reach out to me.
Is that the one with council members on it?
Yeah, we have 3, so, just if you would, but after the meeting, get with me and we'll do that. So really, a motion to authorize the parish president's office to enter into a contract with WSP. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Mangus, or second? Second by Mr. Shavers. Any discussion? Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Artie.
Yes.
Mr. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Mangus.
Yes.
Mr. Goff. Ms. Sandifer.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
All right, that motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Jerome. Looking forward to
yes,
getting this parish zoned and the correct land use
absolutely
as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. Item 10 is adopt a resolution in support of the Fire Protection District Number 4 for lowering the millage rates. This was placed on the council agenda by Mr. Ricky Goff. Mr. Ricky, you have that resolution ready to go?
I do not, but I'm sure Ms. Sandy can quote what I have to say, I guess. But basically, I just wanted to recognize Fire Protection District Number 4. They've been in existence since 1975. I think they were up to 10 stations. They run about 7,000 calls a year. They just hired through the millage that was approved. They have added 33 firemen. Now, these are not part-time firemen or anything of that nature. These are 33 paid firemen that a lot of them originally was working in Baton Rouge, whether it's through St. George or whether it's through Baton Rouge, etc. They are now working in their own parish, taking care of all of us and our families. And because of the graciousness of the fire district and approving that millage, I just want to make sure that we recognize that not only did they do something with the money that we gave them, but they still have some stations that they got to do some construction on so the firemen can stay there 24/7. So they don't need all the funds that they are collecting. And because of the situation that our constituents find themselves in, especially for this particular tax cycle, we sat down and talked about it, and they come up with a good number of 2.5. Once it got to the board, a few constituents showed up and visit with them as well. They sharpened their pencil a little bit more, and the chief understands he's got an uphill battle, but he's willing to take that task. So they actually are going to lower it by 3.5 mills, which ends up being about $1.5 million back to the constituents for this year. Next year, once they get those stations completed in the construction, they will put on another 10 or 11, somewhere in that area, because to house a paid fireman for 24/7 is 3 shifts, because it's 8-hour shifts, 3 shifts, 24 hours. You know, it takes three individual people per station just for one shift. So they will have to roll that back forward some next year, but they told me they would do what they needed to do and minimize that as much as they possibly could. But I just wanted to recognize them and have a resolution passed, our support and our thank you to them for everything that they do in our parish, but also, more importantly, giving back to some of the constituents in the parish. So that's my
Resolution to support
Yes, sir.
District 4 Fire Department by Ricky Goff. Is there a second? One second. Let's make sure we get a second first. Second by Mr. Lonnie Watts. You had a question, Mr. Sandifer? Come to the microphone.
Jamie Sandifer, 24411 Omaha Lane, Denham Springs. I'm in Fire Protection District 4, and I was at that meeting on July the 15th. If the whole story we're going to cut 3.5 mills, then I'd probably be up here saying thank you and agreeing with the resolution. But as Paul Harvey used to say, there's a rest of the story here. In 2022, they were collecting $3 million on a 10 mil tax. In April of 2022, they had an additional 15 mills, taking them to 25 mills. It was the only thing on the ballot, passed with a 3.5% turnout. So basically, 809 voters approved over $100 million worth of taxes for 40,000 people. With this being an assessment year, the assessors publicly stated to everybody that assessments are increasing an average of 40% on everybody. That equates to equivalent increase in revenue for Fire Protection District 4. So they cut 3 mills. They're still adding another 20% to their budget over last year, or over the current year. The 3 mills in 2022 was 8.5, was 3 million in 2022, was 8.5 million this year. With the assessment increase, and even with rolling back the 3.5 mills, they're still going to go up to about 9.5 million a year. So we're talking about a more than 300% increase in 2 years. If there's going to be a resolution, I would like to ask the council to give a resolution to ask them to reconsider the vote and keep their dollar amount collections flat for the year. Even when they added the 15 mills, with the increase in the assessment, they're still getting more than they projected with the 15 mil tax that they passed a year ago. So that's my 2 cents. And as I say, I think the right thing to do here is keep the mills flat. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Goff, was your motion, was your motion to increase the millage, or?
No, it's not. It's just to recognize that they did reduce their millage. Their budget is going to be, Mr. Sandifer is correct, their budget is going to be in the $9 to $9.5 million range. You don't get 33 people, qualified people, for free. But my resolution is simply just acknowledging and being appreciative of them rolling back their millage. So that's my motion.
All right, and we have a second by Mr. Watts. Is there any more discussion? Mr. Coates?
Looking at the agenda item, it looks like this is about a millage reduction. Adopt a resolution in support of Fire Protection District 4 for lowering millage rates.
Yes, it's lowering their millage rate from it being rolling all the way forward. May have put it on there, and possibly you could take it in that context, but they are lowering and not rolling it all the way forward. They're not going to collect their full 15 mills and their full 10 mills, which is what they could. They're going to collect 3.5 mills less than what they could. The voters voted. I'm going to just say this very simply, that my analogy is you have $300. There's 2 people sitting on the other side of the table. One of them's the insurance guy. One of them's your fire chief. This particular fire district is a class rating of 3. The fire district in Baton Rouge is a 1. That's the best you can get. This fire district has a extremely good opportunity having full-time people, to go down to a 2. So if I got $300 in my pocket and I'm going to give it to someone on the other side, I'm going to give it to my fire chief because he's going to show up to get my mom off the floor if I'm out of town and help her back in or get her to the hospital if she needs to. He's also going to show up to my fellow council member when he has a family issue and help is needed. The guy on the left, which is the insurance guy, when you have a roof that goes bad, he's going to sit there and complain and moan and groan. But as soon as your fire rating goes up, he wants that $300. So the issue with any fire district, and it doesn't matter just District 5, District 4, it's any of them, they're one of the only entities in this parish, that actually gives you something back for the taxes that you give them, and they give it to you in your homeowner's insurance. So if you don't believe any of that, just pick up the phone, call your insurance company. District 4 is a 3. Ask them what a 5 is. Ask them what a 7 rating is, and you will realize real quick that the money that you are paying, you're going to pay to someone. And the best thing here is your services get much better, and we are actually keeping up with the growth, if you will, in this parish and the demand on the emergency services. So, again, this is the only entities that give you some money back. The only one. Only one. Any fire district.
Okay. Mr. Goff, that wasn't really my question. Though. The question I was asking was, because you had said something about this is a resolution to appreciate the members of the fire department, correct? And the agenda item says to lower a millage, and then you spoke just now about lowering a millage, so I'm just trying to understand, what is the resolution?
The resolution is, let's clarify it this way. The resolution is in support of Fire District 4 to minimizing their millage on the constituents in their territory. Not saying it's raising it, not saying it's lowering it. They have the ability to collect a higher millage, and they are choosing not to collect the maximum millage. So whatever word y'all want to put on it, or we can pull the resolution. Fine with me.
Sounds like a resolution to support their decision to lower the millage.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. I mean, if you're not in
Support
favor
their
of that, then, oh no.
Support their action. So I apologize if it comes across in the way it said lowering millage rate. So let's adopt a resolution to support Fire Protection District 4 for setting their millage rates and looking out for the people of this community. That's my resolution.
Any more discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
I just have another question. Do you know their budget situation from 2022 to 2024? Was Mr. Sandiford correct in they went from $3 million to $8.5 million in 2 years?
They hired on 33 people. I'll be happy to sit down with anyone and go over their budget. Right now, what they have it set in right now, that they're gonna have to really tighten up their belt. But they're gonna have 33 paid people on, and they did not have those on there before. So that's where the bulk of their funds go to. They are also going out for 2 fire trucks, which are about $1.5 million a piece. They're also going out for extrication equipment that they got to update. I think y'all heard before that the SCBAs, which is the breathing apparatuses, it's several $100,000 that they're having to upgrade that because they have to stay at a certain level. Some of that equipment, other fire districts would love to have it because they can't afford it. So I think that they're going to be donating some of that stuff. But they don't waste money. I promise you that. But anybody that wants to sit down and go over it, well, I mean, I'll be happy to set up a meeting with Mr. Wascom, and we can go over their budget. But they're not wasting any money. They're going to be real tight.
Now, one more question. Does the projection of up to $8.5 million, is that including the 40% increase expected from the assessments this year?
They took the same thing that we have, the projection numbers, and what the legislative auditor says to roll it back to, and then roll it back forward, and that's the numbers they use. They use an exact
So
same.
they're staying at the legislative auditor's recommendation for keeping it on an equal playing field?
They're going by the same numbers when you look at an assessed year last year versus an assessment of this year and what you would collect versus, and then, going forward. I didn't think this was going to be a real big issue, but apparently it is. And again, I'll be happy to sit down with anyone, and I know Mr. Wascom very well.
When he says Mr. Wascom, he's not talking about me.
I'm not. I'm not.
Let's just make that clear.
So does that mean he doesn't know you very well?
Well, I know Mr. Wascom as well, and
Yeah.
I'm not debating on how he does his business with his departments. The only thing that I'm concerned with is we have an assessment that come in that's going to increase people's property values by 40%, and people are already nervous about that. So we need to just make sure that whatever we're doing with a prudent mind of what the people out there are experiencing as well.
Absolutely.
Any more comments, Mr. Coates?
No, sir.
All right, I think we have someone in the audience. You want to come to the microphone, give us your name and address, and
Melissa Jones, 32738 Mangum Chapel Road, Walker. I'm in Fire District 4. I voted for District 4's millages. I called Mindy early today just to clarify. Mr. Joe's daughter, she owns an insurance company. It saves me about 10 to 15% on my homeowners a year. My fire rating does. Now, I don't know if you understand how much that is. That's the only thing that I have to pay for in life that I actually see a benefit for immediately. I don't like to pay insurance. I don't like to have it, and I don't need a fire department until I need one. And when my house burnt down, they were there. You don't think about it till you need it. But I can tell you as a nurse, all the seniors that depend on them, how many times these people are out in the middle of the night picking up people off the floor is ungodly. But I live in District 4, Fire District 4. I voted for the tax, and we are very happy, and I don't think we need your approval for it, Mr. Coates. I understand that Ricky was just trying to make everybody aware and be transparent, and I love the spirit of transparency. But we actually see a complete turnaround on our money for this, and we are 100% satisfied in Fire District 4. Thank you.
thank you. All right, so we had a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Miss Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
No.
No?
No.
No? Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer? Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
All right, since,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Coates,
Before we move on, I just want to clarify something. And Ms. Melissa, thank you for your comments. And I spent my entire life as a police officer. I know the benefits of the fire department. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I was just trying to do what needed to be done, ask the questions that need to be asked. That's all. Thank you.
all right, the next item is the next two items. Rick, are they two different ordinances or
They are.
okay, well, the first one is an introduction of ordinance to adopt a
Numbers?
millage rate
21's next.
millage rates for the Livingston Parish Library Board of the tax year 2024. You want to read it by title, or is it prepared to be read by title? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go
We
ahead.
just need to give everybody a copy of it real fast.
All right. And then we're going to turn that over to Mr. Goff to give us his version of this ordinance.
First one is proposed.
Yeah, get your microphone, okay.
Proposed ordinance number 24-21. It's an ordinance setting the millage rates as adjusted for the tax year 2024. And the public hearing will be on September the 12th at 6 p.m.
All right, you want to explain this ordinance that you have proposed, Mr. Goff?
Basically, the library board and all entities, and I've reached out to pretty much every single entity, trying to do my due diligence and giving back as much as I can possibly squeeze out of here, and giving it back to the constituents and what I call the rooftops of this parish. We are slowly building industries, slowly building commercial and we're slowly getting off of some of the backs of the rooftop, but we still are heavily on y'all's back to fund this parish. So anytime that I find that something is not where it needs to be in my feelings, I feel the responsibility of this position to address that, and that's basically what I'm doing here. This is simply an introduction. There's really not any real discussion that needs to be of it. The library board has the opportunity August the 13th to set their millage and be responsible for the people of this parish. I have had some discussion with my board member. I think he's still here tonight, Mr. Steve Bernard, as well as a few other ones. We have reached out and I've had some conversations with Ms. Michelle. And I'm hopeful that we can have more of those conversations and come up with a millage number that the library does not have any reduction in services. They actually would get raises for their constituents, both part-time and full-time. They would get the library mobile that they need, etc. But nobody likes it whenever I say that this particular entity is overfunded, but that's exactly where they're at. They're overfunded. So I've had some pushback on where I felt that this number would be comfortable. So I'm simply introducing this to give us as a council the opportunity to set the millage if the library board does not do what we feel is appropriate or sufficient. If the library on August the 13th does do what I feel, and this council feels is sufficient, then we won't take any action at all on this. But because of the advertising and the public notice and all that stuff, I have to put this on the agenda. I can't wait till after August the 13th. So by doing that, it does kind of push the envelope a little bit and get the people all wound up and get us talking in a good, positive direction. I have no desire to set the millage rate for the library board as a councilman, but I will. I will for your benefit, as well as mine, because this is a parish-wide millage. I'll be happy to sit down and go over anything with anyone. I also have 2 dates, just so the council members know. I have 2 dates for this room. One of them is before the 13th. One is after the 13th. The one after the 13th, if I feel we have to set the millage, then I'm not hiding from anything. I'm going to have a meeting here myself. I'm going to have it televised. I'm going to ask any of the board members from the library, as well as Ms. Michelle and everybody from the library. And we're going to go over that budget so everybody understands that Ricky is not cutting the legs out from underneath the library. I love the library, but it's overfunded. And we got to give every penny that we can. And Mr. DeLatte's not going to like when I get to his road thing. But every penny that we can, we need to give back to the constituents of this parish, especially in the position that we're in. The library will get everything that they wish. Mobile unit is $350,000. The library lockers, they call them, which I think is a great idea. They'll get a 3% raise for full-time. They'll get 7% raise for part-time. They'll fund all the repairs. They'll do the upgrade of the computer. So I'm not headhunting at the library, but I am looking out for all of our 150-something thousand people. So this is simply introduction tonight only, and I hope I answered most everybody's question. But I'd like to make a motion to introduce it, or if the council as a whole wishes to acknowledge it and accept it.
Well, if it's okay with the council, we don't necessarily have to put that in the form of a motion. I could just declare this the introduction. And what day will that adoption of this ordinance be, Ms. Sandy?
September 12th at 6 p.m.
And if by the declaration of this being an introduction, it will be on the agenda for September the 12th for anyone who wants to come speak for or against that specific ordinance. So y'all good with that?
Good with it.
Mr. Mangus, you had a question?
Is that for both of them?
We do one at a time.
Once we finish this one, we'll do the next one.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is item 12, introduction of ordinance, set forth adjusted millage rates for the Livingston Parish Library Board and roll forward to millage rates not to exceed maximum. Mrs. Sandy, you want to read this ordinance by title?
This will be proposed ordinance 24-22. It's an ordinance to levy adjusted millage rates after reassessment and roll forward the millage rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum rate for the tax year 2024. The public hearing will be on September the 12th at 6 p.m.
Mr. Goff, you want to explain the difference?
The difference between these two is the first one, the legislative auditor requires us, because it was a 10 mil, and it would collect the same amount of money at 7.53. This one allows some flexibility to go from 10 mils, and it's the original one would be approved at 7.53, but it would allow this council the ability to move it forward if we get into a situation that we all agree that 7.75 is workable. I have committed, and I'll commit tonight, that I'm not opposed to 7.75. It's more than they need. 7.7 to 7.53 is good. They'll still carry over a surplus. And the only reason they're going to carry a surplus mainly is because they have a CD that matured, that they'll have an additional $800,000 that came available on the 19th of this month. February, and I think one or two other ones, they will have 3 other CDs that will come to mature that will be $1 million plus that they'll have available to them. So you can see where I'm going with this. The money's there. The money's there. So I believe 7.53, I think we can go lower than that. But I think 7.53 is a great number. But I'm willing to concede to 7.75. So that's what this ordinance is. It gives us the ability to roll it back forward a little bit. And hopefully that's where the library board falls on August the 13th, and they set theirs at 7.75, and we have to do nothing. But if they set it at 8.5, then this council will do whatever this council feels is appropriate. My suggestion would be, if it comes back to this council, we set it at 7.53. So that's the difference.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll pick, if it pleases the council, we'll do the same thing on this one we did on the last one. If there's no problem, I'll declare this as the public hearing. We'll pick it up again on September the 17th. Is that correct, Sandy?
No, sir, the 12th.
Excuse me, September the 12th.
Yes, sir.
All right.
At 6 p.m.
That being said, that's done. The next item is an introduction of an ordinance for the DPW surplus equipment. This is equipment that's been left over. Ms. Sandy, you want to read this ordinance by title?
Was there one we're supposed to take off?
Pardon?
No, we're good. This will be proposed ordinance 24-23. This is an ordinance to declare certain movable property equipment no longer needed for public purposes, provide for its sale by internet sales and or public auction, and provide for terms of sale. The public hearing will be on August the 8th at 6 p.m.
All right. Motion to introduce that ordinance. Is there anyone, Mr. Mangus? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Joe Erdy. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Is there any opposed? That motion carried unanimous. Let's go into item 14, public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 2419, amending chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances, Livingston Parish subdivision regulations. I know, I think Mr. Ricky Goff has been working on this one a good bit. You want to give us a quick overview of what this is that's already been introduced?
I apologize.
That's okay. Ms. Sandy, you want to read by title?
Yeah.
This is proposed ordinance 24-19. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish subdivision regulations, Article 4, subdivisions without improvements, Section 125-51, Part E, submittals, and Article 5, subdivisions with improvements, Section 125-67, Part 6F, submittals as follows.
This ordinance was introduced at the previous meeting. Can you give us a quick overview, Mr. Ricky, or is that possible?
This is everybody, we've been discussing this through the Artist Committee and everything. I think they sent it with a favorable introduction, and it's got to do with the 1980 and subdivisions by named, and trying to prevent as many waivers that are just a formality from coming to the council.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir, that's a motion.
Is there a second for the adoption?
I'll second it.
Mr. Mangus, you had a discussion.
Yes, it doesn't list the 1980 in here, and I know we had brought that up.
It's blue.
It should be
It's
in
real light blue.
It's
Where I don't
it's
have-
on there. It's if you look on here,
I don't,
14, and it's in blue.
okay, great.
Yeah,
'cause I
that's in
don't,
there. It was 85, and Ms. Sanford had done some checking and felt that we could go back to 1980, so that's what we went ahead and changed it to that.
prior to the year 1980. So is that 1980 no? It had to be 79 because it says prior to the year.
Basically what it is any development, I'm sorry?
It says in or prior.
Yeah.
1980.
In or prior. Okay. Yeah.
What it also does is if it's, it has to be a 2-acre tract of property for it to fall in this category for the planning commission to be able to say, we're going to go ahead and let it move on. If it's under 2 acres and still wants to be subdivided and it's in a named subdivision, no matter what year it is, it still has to come to this council just so we can kind of digest it. That way we should have subdividing of the property. Constituents can go through their process without as much trouble, and it's 2 acres, so it should be larger lot.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Mangus. Any more discussion? Ms. Sandy? Oh, I hereby declare a public hearing open for this specific ordinance. Is anyone here to speak for or against this ordinance? None being? Oh, come on. Just kidding. All right, Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Shavers?
I close the public hearing. Go ahead, call for the vote.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
All right. Let's go ahead and keep moving while we're going pretty fast. Item 16, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver of Section 125-176 definitions to allow a third address on a 3.3 acre tract from Mr. Dale Boudreau. This is in Mr. Mangus's district. John, you want to give us a quick update on that one?
Yeah, I spoke with Mr. Boudreau. I know how we feel about waivers in general, but I thought he had a very good, valid point. Yeah, please come on up. And I will let them explain it.
Pardon?
Let's get 15.
Okay. Sorry about that. Go ahead. Give us your name and address, please.
Patricia Breniger, 26816 South Satsuma Road, Livingston.
All right. Go ahead, John. You want to?
This is my grandson.
Okay, go ahead.
Dale Boudreau, 26307 Oliver Wheat Road, Livingston.
I first heard about them, Mr. McMorris, previous councilman for District 6, told me about them, and Ms. Reniger called me and explained it. So if you can just explain it to everyone else.
So, this is my grandmother. We have a mobile home I'm trying to put behind her property. I have a first cousin that lives about 600 feet in the back. I'm trying to put mine about 200 feet behind hers. So they're pretty evenly spread out, and it was brought to our attention that there's an ordinance against that. So,
All right. I believe the current law says you can have 2, but when you do over 2, you have to have a waiver.
Okay, the reason he's wanting to put it there is my husband has stage 4 lung cancer, and he would be right there to help me.
Understood.
Ms. Delat, we had talked in the past about if there is a waiver for an extenuating circumstance, that once that circumstance is gone, then the waiver goes away. Can you explain that? Yeah, and please let her speak in the mic. Thank you.
So if you do it for a hardship case, then yes, that would be temporary. He would meet the criteria if it wasn't the third address to where a waiver wouldn't even be needed because it's a grandparent to a grandchild. Previously, the nephew got in before the linear descendant was effective, in effect. So this puts him the third address, but it's technically within your ordinance because it is a linear descendant. So he would just need the waiver because it would be the third address.
And
But
he's doing it, you're doing it basically to help take care of the grandfather.
And that is the truth. I do know him, and yes, her husband is very sick.
Mr. Mangus, you have a motion, or?
Yes, I have a motion to allow the third address for this particular reason.
Is there a second from this council?
Yeah.
Second by Mr. Lonnie Watts. Any discussion from the council? Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Shavers?
No.
Mr. Artie?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
No.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
No.
Ms. Sandifer?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
1, 2,
Did that motion carry or fail?
4.
4 to 4 with one abstain. So that motion did not pass. Just letting you know, you did not get your waiver.
Abstain.
All right?
So that's a tie.
Pardon?
Who abstained?
Well, Billy Tanner's not here, and so that's
not
an
an
abstain.
abstain.
So basically, it did not pass because you can't count that if that is a no vote. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's go back to 15. I happened to skip over that one. Adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver to allow the required 60-foot servitude to be divided into two separate servitudes consisting of 40-foot servitude on the north of lot D1C and D1D. Mr. Mangus had requested this to be on the agenda.
Okay, yeah, this is Mr. Tanner, and he's going to explain it. Basically, he wants to keep the servitude. The problem with it is, and I'll let you explain it, Mr. Tanner.
Yeah, my name is John Tanner. I reside at 24815 Joe May Road. When I bought the property, what I failed to realize is how many times my utilities were going to get ran over. So instead of the 60 that's in place, what I'm asking for is to allow a 40 up front and a 20 in the back.
Put your mic a little closer, or get closer to it if you don't mind. Just stand closer to it.
And I have a printout, a drawing of how I like my utilities ran to further prevent damages. Septic tanks being ran over, water meters being ran over. So if I can get the 40-foot servitude and the 20, that would be tremendous in helping me out and doing what I need to do to prevent my utilities from being ran over.
Yeah, he already has a pad there, and if it was when it was originally at 40, if he has to move it to 60, he has to cut trees down, which he said he would do, but the neighbor has requested, if possible, not to cut the trees down. The sewer cannot be, I think Mr. Latt mentioned that the sewer cannot be in the front. It has to be behind. So that would limit, with the 60-foot, limit the place.
All right.
And he lives right near the property,
Yeah,
correct?
on the property, 24815 Joe May Road, yes.
Yeah.
So there's a motion to resolution to authorize the waiver to the 60-foot. You want to put that in the form of a motion?
Waiver to split it.
It will still be 60. It'll just be split 40 and 60. 40 for the water lines and 20 for the sewer lines. I would like on the side of the property.
I see what you're saying.
So the sewer line and water line won't be in the same ditch.
So it's still 60 foot?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And that still requires a waiver?
I don't know.
You know what, just for clarification, let's do it, if that's okay with the council. I mean, it's really still like 60 foot from what he's telling me.
Yes.
And you're using 20 foot for servitude, which is what it's for. Is there someone, Robert, do you want to speak on this?
I just want to, if it could be possible to leave the 60 foot and make the 20 foot the utility servitude. you say you still have 60 foot, but only the utilities could be in that servitude. Would do the same thing.
The sewer can't be in the front because of the...
Come out for the water line, so nothing could be in that utility servitude but utility. That would reach both of them. Still
Is there
have
somebody...
60-foot servitude.
Will that work for you, Mr. Tanner?
No, sir, it won't. The 60-foot servitude takes up 60% of my property. I only have 100-foot frontage right there. A single-wide mobile home would be 20 foot. That'd be 80% of my property. And then that gives me no backyard for a tenant to put a shed, their tools, they would be able to store stuff in a backyard. And like Mr. Mangus was saying, the pad that was already there is dead center where that 60-foot servitude is. So I would have to offset the mobile home on the pad. I would have to clear trees. And I have a good relationship with my neighbors. I like for them to keep their little piece, their backyard, their garden that they have. I don't want to cut these trees down. And I'll just 40 foot is where I put the pad when I first bought the property. That's where my first mobile home was going to go. Since then, I put the mobile home in a different spot where the previous owner had a mobile home. Then I had the property subdivided. So I had the pad there before I had it subdivided, and it just so happens that the 60-foot servitude is dead center of the pad, the trailer pad that I have there. So reducing it down to 40 will do more than just one thing. It's more than just moving it. It allows me to put my utilities in a spot where they won't get harmed, and I can set the mobile home on center of the pad where it won't be in the way.
So it sounds like a waiver is the only option on this particular case. So is that a motion?
One quick question. When you subdivided before, is there an existing 40-foot servitude there now or not?
No, there's a 60 there. There's a 60-foot servitude there now. Whenever I first bought the property, that's where I thought I wanted my first mobile home. But since then, I moved it. I've gotten with my guys that are installing the septic tank system, and he said it would be ideal to put it here, so I'll put the first one in another location. Then I subdivided it, and it turns out that trailer pad, the mobile home pad, is dead center of the 60-foot servitude is dead center of the mobile home pad. So having it at 40 will allow me to put the mobile home center of the mobile home pad.
There had been a mobile home there before. That's why the pad's there. Before you owned the property.
Yes, there was a mobile home there
40-foot
before
servitude.
I bought the property, yes.
And I've gone out and seen where this is, and I see the trees that he has to cut in order to do it. Also, the power pole that's already there, you can't run, according to Demco, power over the trailer, over a mobile home. So that would have to be relocated as well.
Yeah, correct.
The back part of that property, the servitude, you have 2 lots.
I have 4 lots on the property. It's 3.6 acres, subdivided 4 times.
Yeah, and it was subdivided in a different council, we didn't do that.
That was about 2 years ago, coming up on 2 years since I've owned the property, so it's been a while.
Is that a motion by Mr. Mankus?
Yes.
Is there a second? Well, if we don't get a second, your request will fail.
Okay.
So with no second, that motion did not even make it to the table, to the vote. So Sorry about that.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. The next item on the agenda, 17, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver of Section 125-176. This is to allow a third address on a 2.3-acre tract for Ms. Young. Mr. Mangus, you want to give us a quick description on this one?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Latt, I'm going to need you again on this one. Ms. Young, can you come up? All right, if you could explain it for us, you do a better job and look much better. So,
thank you. What I was wanting to do was, my son has had a traumatic brain injury, and I wanted to put a tiny house behind my house for him. on the second piece of property, which is my mother's property, which is also in a trust, which will be mine once she passes. I have a sickly, she has congestive heart failure, sister-in-law that I need to take care of, and I wanted to put her on my mother's piece of property.
Is it two different tracks, or is it all?
It's two different tracks. I own one, and she owns one. And Mom's here.
Okay. So my question is, one house is on one tract of acre, correct? On one tract. And the second property, does it have a trailer on it?
No, it has a little house. My elder son lives in it.
Okay, so you're going to bring a third one in?
No.
There's already a third one?
No. It's going to be two on one property and two on the other property.
Okay.
And one's a lineal.
One's my son,
Right.
but the other one is my sister-in-law.
So we allow two addresses. Why is there a variance needed?
Not lineal.
Pardon?
And you can subdivide.
The one tract of land is hers, and she's going to put her son on it. Y'all don't need to do anything with that.
Okay.
We got that straight.
No waiver
We got
needed
that
there.
straight. We got that straight right before the meeting.
Okay.
The second one is her mother
owns
that tract.
The other tract.
Correct. So because the person moving in on it is not a linear descendant, that's why there needs to be a waiver for a second address to allow.
Because it's not a...
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Okay, now, who's moving into that spot?
It's my sister-in-law who is elderly.
Sister-in-law.
It's sister-in-law.
So according to our law, it's not technically son or brother, but it's your sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law, but I'm all she has.
Y'all, I really think this is specific law that we have on our books needs to be changed. I mean, because family is not just blood. Family is the people you live with and work with. And, you know, I would ask you to consider supporting this variance. And because, you know, some of the closest people in our family is not necessarily our blood related, but it's our heart related. So, I mean, I'm going to ask y'all to support this waiver. I don't normally try not to get involved, but in this specific case, if I understand you want to support, hold the law, that our law says you have to be blood related. Well, you know what? We can work on changing the law, but until then, let's do the right thing and give this lady a variance. That's my thought. So, Mr. Mangus?
Right. Also, you agreed to sign an affidavit
Definitely.
that if anything changes, the house will be moved, the address will go
Turn it
away.
into a shed, whatever I need to do.
She does not want it to stay. It will never be rented out.
Never.
It's not a rental.
Currently, this family member is living in a travel in another location, trying to get.
So we're cleaning up another part of the parish by allowing this. We're making Livingston Parish better.
Correct. So she's trying to move her on to her mother's property, which would be the second address to take care of her. And then in the event something happens, that structure would be moved off. The address would become null and void.
Fantastic.
And it's not a named subdivision.
All right, Mr. Mangus, you want to put that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second from this council?
Yes.
Second by Mr. Ricky Goff. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Mr. Coates.
Can you define what a tiny house is? What are you speaking of?
It is, the size is 16 foot by 40 foot.
So it's like a Stanley building or something that you would buy?
Durskin, or
Okay.
I have pictures if
And
you
that
need.
is approved under the building code. So the building code did make it.
And Mr. Kevin
Amy's already went out.
He's
and
already
seen out to
inspected
look
them.
at it, make
So it meets the wind rating and everything
Yes,
else?
sir.
Is that what they call a cottage?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I think it used to be cottages, and now they've switched it.
I hear that term more often than not lately, cottages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Sandy, we have a motion by Mr. Mangus, second by Mr. Goff. You want any more discussion? None being, Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Shavers?
No.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
No.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Congratulations, you got your waiver. You're welcome.
Thank y'all.
All right. Item 18, adopt a resolution to grant a waiver of Section 125 138. Mr. Mangus, you're doing pretty good on these waivers today. We're 1 for 3. So let's see how this one
Okay,
goes.
and I promise that this is not a something I want to do. This particular one is, let's see,
That's right. This was only a linear problem.
is the lady here for that one, for number 18? At 24173 Joe May? To speak for that?
You want to pull it off until next time,
Well,
or what you want to do?
Here's the deal on that. One of my constituents reported that there was a camper on Joe May, and it had sewer running to the ditch. So I called compliance. Is there anybody from compliance here that can speak on that? Mr. Myers, they went out there and they saw that it is a trailer, not a trailer, an RV, and apparently the person has been living there for 2 years. So they couldn't give me a timetable of how quickly they would have to give out, had to move out. So 3 months to me seemed the shortest thing that we were allowed to do.
So you want to do a waiver for 3 months, basically? Is there any way of following up on that, John? I mean,
absolutely, I will.
Put it back on the agenda. Well, let's.
Right.
You want to put that in the form of a motion?
Can it be shorter than 3 months? I mean, is 3 months, from what I understand, for is it?
We did. It's 3 months.
Are they here?
It's 3
They're not
months
here?
listed. No, they're not here.
Okay. Yeah, then they'll do it as a. I mean, I don't understand how it went so long without being found, but 3 months.
You okay with 3 months?
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second? Brad, you had a question?
I'm just trying to think outside here. Instead of granting them a waiver for 3 months, code enforcement can tell them, hey, you've got 90 days to get into compliance, and if you don't, then we're going to move forward with the enforcement and haul the trailer off.
Well, how about that? We change your motion to authorize.
That way we're not granting any waivers.
Yes,
but we're still fixing the problem.
I'm 100% okay with that.
Okay.
Because I talked to the person, I'm not going to mention their name, to come to the meeting tonight, and they didn't come. So
how about a motion to authorize Mr. DeLatte to give them a 90-day notice? Would that be okay?
I make a motion to authorize Mr. DeLatte to give them a 90-day notice.
And if they don't comply, then it'll be gone in 90 days. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Jordy. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Miss Sandy.
Mr. Shavers.
This is for the administration to send them a 90-day notice.
That is correct.
Yes.
Mr. Erdy.
Yes.
Mr. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Mangus.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer.
Absent.
And Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
All right. Moving on down, board appointments, reappointments, accept resignation of Ward 2 Water District. I have an appointment to the Ward 2 Water Board, Mr. David Strickland. He reached out to me and said because of health issues and back, he's just not able to continue serving on the Ward 2 Water Board. Said he's done a great job, and I'd like to say he has, and he's brought us a long way and done a good thing. But he said, John, I just can't do it anymore. I've sent the letter to Miss Sandy, so I need one thing is, and I have someone else to appoint, but first I think in order would be to accept the resignation of Mr. David Strickland. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Shavers. Second by Mr. Goff. Miss Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Erdy.
Yes.
Mr. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Mangus.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer. Mr. Wascom.
Yes. And the second one is to appoint someone to that Ward 2 Water, and I'd like to make I can't make the motion as chairman, so I'd like to make a recommendation that we appoint Mr. Wally Ovara to the Ward 2 Water Board. Motion by Mr. John Mangus.
Yes.
Second by Mr. Lonnie Watts. Is there any discussion? Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Artie.
Yes.
Mr. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Mangus.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor's absent. Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer.
Valley of Alra to appoint Ward 2 water.
Yes.
All right, and
Mr. Wascom.
yes,
And Mr. Watts.
Yes.
congratulations, Mr. Wiley. You're now on the Ward 2 water board. All right. Item C, I would like to pull this item from the agenda and put it on the next council meeting. Can we do that, Ms. Sandy?
Okay. Yep.
All right. Before we go to item 20, let's pick up a couple of my favorite addendums. A2, Livingston Parish Grants Department. This is to adopt a resolution authorizing the parish president to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Livingston Parish Airport District for mitigation of wetlands drainage improvements, including a sewer system project. Mickey, are you going to speak on this, Mickey? Would you give us a quick update on the cooperative endeavor agreement between the Livingston Airport and the Livingston Parish?
This is really just a house cleaning endeavor here because it was approved by the council in November, by the prior council, the expenditure for ARPA funds. And it's went through the RFP process and they're ready to let the contract. So, and that will be, the government will let that contract for this sewer project. And we looked for this cooperative endeavor agreement. We couldn't find one. However, it come to my attention that was submitted in the prior administration, and for some reason it wasn't signed. So in order for us to enter into this agreement, we need the authority from the council to do so.
All right.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah.
So can you explain to me what the parish's involvement is with this drainage improvement and why is the parish doing it?
This was approved by the prior board, and one point, it's my understanding that, and Mr. Idell will probably be able to help me out a little bit, but $2.4 million was promised to them. They have a budget of $2.1 million in the ARPA fund.
Was that out of the capital outlay, the 2.4?
No. This is ARPA funded. This is money that came from the federal government after COVID.
Correct.
So that money was distributed mainly for water, sewer, and various other utilities. So they thought it was going to be $2.4 million to mitigate the problem. It came back at $1.4 million, basically. So those funds have been expended. So now they want to spend, this RFP come back at about $451, and then they have about $138 more thousand, so about $600,000 more dollars to spend.
So who's doing the work?
That will be determined. The RFP was graded, and that will be on the next agenda for you to approve that. I don't. Can we say it now, Ms. Sandy, or do we have to wait till the next for it to be on the agenda?
We're not ready.
Yeah. So it's got to be put on the agenda for the next meeting for public.
So the parish is hiring. Help me understand. The parish is hiring a contractor to do this work. You need a endeavor agreement for us to go into contract with them?
Yes.
Okay. So
the previous administration appropriated the money for them to use. We don't have the document. We have the vote that they took in November. We don't have the document of the signature of the previous parish president. So to clean up and to get that money, we have to have authority from this council so I can sign it. Because the previous parish president didn't sign it. He just appropriated the money that got voted on.
So this was a vote by the previous council.
Yes.
For us to hire the contractor to perform this work.
It was a vote that they could utilize the ARPA money to proceed on issuing RFP and things like that.
Okay.
that process has been complete, and then next council meeting, we'll come to you with by the time this went on the agenda, we didn't know what the results for the RF.
Okay.
So that will be on the next.
So we've got money allocated out of the ARPA funds already to do this.
Yes. This is not new money, new expenditure. This was approved by the prior administration.
Can that money be moved anywhere else, or that's what it's dedicated for?
It probably could be moved, but I mean, we went down the, you've allocated that, it was approved to be expended by prior.
Right.
Council. So I don't know if we'd be breaking an ordinance if we did something. I don't.
Mr. Idell, do you have any input?
Can you help me?
Hold on one second.
So just to reiterate what Mr. McMorris said, the bulk of that was a check that was cut last year to pay for the mitigation, to allow us to clear and grub parts of the property that were wetlands so that we could put in the large detention ponds. So that was the bulk of it, and that check was cut last year. What they're asking for now is, in addition to that, last year, the previous council authorized up to $600,000 for sewer improvements, and that is to lay a sewer line down Satsuma Road, which these improvements would serve the airport, and they would also put sewer in that area so that we could pick up about 60 additional residences and get them off of individual septic tanks and wastewater treatment plants. So that's what the sewer project is. The sewer project was advertised for bids. We received about 10. The low bid was under budget. It was about $451,000, I believe, and that would be on the agenda for your next council meeting, like Mr. McMorris says. So just so you know, on that project, plans were prepared. The engineering's been done. You've paid for that. We advertised for bids because the parish council had already appropriated those funds for the project. So, I'm not an attorney, but the contractor, the low bidder, is expecting that, being that there was no irregularities with the bid, it was under budget, that, that contract would be entered into between the low bidder and the parish. But that's where we are today, and just to give you guys the
Brad, let me
facts.
ask you a question. If we don't go into this agreement with them, with this contractor, are we breaking an ordinance from what the previous council did?
If the money's already been allocated, that's where the money has to go.
Is that where it is allocated to it?
Yeah, they have a specific line in that particular budget.
But the funds can be moved because it's ARPA money, right? So it's technically...
The funds were already put out there, like Mr. Idell just said. A bid was put in, and if they're a conforming bid, they're under budget, there's no reason to reject the bid. And that man's going to expect that job.
And I know it says airport, and that kind of got people upset, but this does benefit 60 additional families. The city of Livingston has agreed and voted on taking that project into their system. Won't cost us any money.
I'm going to vote to do this, but I just want to say this. I have been against this airport from day one because of where the money has come from. I think the parish, Leighton Ricks, or past administration has paid towards the airport district $30,000 either a year or a month, I can't remember, out of taxpayer dollars. And then they took money from what I'm told out of capital outlay money from the state, and some state representatives helped them get that money. I just don't want the parish, if there's money that can be moved around in other areas to help the taxpayers, then I think we should do it. But if you tell me it's allocated and this is where it's got to go, I'll vote for it. But I've been against the airport since day one, since I got elected, because taxpayers, it's at the expense of the taxpayers.
And I understand that's what you have to do.
Yep.
But this does extend beyond the airport. It does. Sewer is a big issue. I agree. In any area. So.
And because it's federal money, then you have to have the CEA in place.
I agree with you, and I'm going to vote for it, but I just want everybody to know that
So is that a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Not a motion by me.
Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Lonnie Watts. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Goff. We have a second. All right, because then we got another one coming up right after it. So, any discussion? Ms. Sandy, you want to call for? Oh, Mrs. Up. Wait, raise it high. All right. Come on up. Give us your name and address.
Abby. Where is this runoff or the sewage going to?
Up.
There was.
Come on up, Mr. Idell. He can answer that question for you.
There's a new plan.
It's not a
It's an operating just south of the interstate, right across from Gary Lewis's development, and that's where all this treated sewer would be. That's where all the sewer would go to get treated.
More from
It ends up in one of the Coyote Creek, but we already have a discharge permit for that. And those limits are really strict for that treatment plant.
That's going to set it any more, maybe go up any higher.
So by whenever the project is completed and we've taken in those other homes, the pollutants to the receiving streams will actually be significantly lower because your typical residential plant, the water quality is much lower than what you get from that plant at Satsuma. So it's definitely a net positive increase.
West Coyote,
They're all impaired. So this project would significantly reduce the pollutants to the Coyote Creek.
be tested out.
They are required to test multiple times a month.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ms. Crosby. All right, we had a motion, I believe, in a second, didn't we? Who was the motion by Mr. Watt, second by Mr. Goff? Any more discussion? Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Erdy.
Yes.
Mr. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Mangus.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
All right, and the second one is kind of on the same thing. It's a resolution authorizing the parish president to execute a corporate endeavor agreement with the Livingston Airport District for mitigation of wetlands drainage improvements, including the sewer system project. Eddie, is this kind of the same thing? You might as well stay up here and...
This is for
the town.
I'm sorry. This is with the. I'm sorry. Yes, this is a resolution to the parish president to a cooperative endeavor agreement with the town of Livingston for the town of Livingston and the executive airport sewer improvement.
So what this does, John, this would, once these sewer improvements are in place, the town of Livingston would actually accept operation and maintenance of that system since it's going to be treated by their municipal treatment plant.
And they've already voted.
They've already agreed
They're
to
just
it.
waiting on us to do it
Yes,
so we
sir.
can team up together and improve sewer in this parish.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Is there a motion?
I'll make it.
Motion by Mr. Goff, I believe, seconded by Mr. Mangus.
Eddie,
Discussion?
one quick question. In reference to the 60 homes, I'm pretty sure that there's a requirement, basically, like they can't just ignore and not tie on since the system is available. Is that part of this mix as well, or is the town of Livingston gonna take on that task?
So with the 600,000, we're only able to put in part of the infrastructure. It's actually a little over $1 million to put in the rest of the sewer from Jordan Lane to pick up those residences. Now, technically, if somebody did really want to, they could change out their wastewater treatment plant and put in a little grinder pump and pump into the force main, and they could tie in. But right now, technically, we wouldn't be requiring anybody to connect.
Okay.
Because we don't have enough funds to put in the gravity sewer. That'll be in another phase.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, we had a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Erdy.
Yes.
Mr. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Mangus.
Yes.
Mr. Goff. Ms. Sandifer. Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
All right. Now we'll go to item 20. That motion carried unanimous, by the way. This is a long item on this agenda. instead of reading all this, evidently, I believe this was placed on by I don't know if Mr. Malley, Mr. Delat put this on the agenda. It's for an executive session to discuss 4 different lawsuits, I believe. That's what it's listed here, is A, B, C, and D, and E. So, is there something you need to say publicly, or do we need to just go to executive session, or give us a rundown, Steve?
Let me do this. There's actually one lawsuit at issue tonight. There is another tangential lawsuit that may be affected by it. It probably would be helpful at some point at the council's pleasure if I explain some of the history here so people can understand what is and what is not at issue in the case. I can either do that now or I can do that after the executive session at your pleasure.
Well, and for item 21, we also have an executive session that Mr. Joe Erdy requests to be put on the agenda in regard to the matter of Harold Parker Jr. versus Livingston Parish government also. Can we just pick it all up, Brad, in executive session?
Go into one executive session.
And just cover all these items?
Sure.
And then if there's something to be said, you can come out then and say it. Is that fine?
Sure.
Let's do that. And then after that, we will have any action taken back there, but that would be anything. No, we'll take no action back there. But if we come out and we choose to take action, we'll do it at that time, and then it'll be pretty much the end of tonight's meeting. So is there a motion to go in executive session?
Yeah. Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Joe Erdy, second by Mr. Lonnie Watts. Any discussion? Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
All right, we're going to...
Channel 17, proudly serving the Florida parishes.
Let's go ahead and go back into regular session. Is there a motion to come out of executive session back to the regular council? Motion by Mr. Watts, second by Mr. Mangus. Any discussion? All in favor say yes? Yes. Any opposed? That motion carried unanimous. All right, we did go back into executive session and discuss litigation with lawsuit regarding Ascension Properties versus Livingston Parish. And we took no action. We were able to come out, I think, and maybe get some kind of resolve. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Irving. If you could, you want to give us a quick synopsis of what you think we need to do at this point?
Certainly, I'll do that. Mr. Chairman, the item that's before the council tonight is the settlement agreement, but as we've discussed, there is a companion development agreement. After the executive session, and there was a discussion amongst council, and a proposed resolution has been prepared which addresses everything. I'd like to present that proposed resolution and make a brief explanation for it.
All right, let's hear that resolution.
The resolution says that authorize Randy Delat to execute the settlement agreement and negotiate and execute a development agreement the same or substantially similar to the development agreement signed by Ascension Properties as advertised and posted, but with the provision that should any terms conflict between the development agreement and the settlement agreement, the development agreement shall prevail. And I will tell you that the one that's already been signed by Ascension Properties already has that provision in it. So the existing development agreement can be signed. Now, Randy will not be able to sign that settlement agreement until after the August 22nd hearing. The development agreement, I'm sorry, will not be able to sign the development agreement until after the August 22nd hearing because of some delays that are built in the state law for that process.
All right.
So anyway, that's the resolution.
I think that's very clear. Before we get into any discussion, as per Robert's Rules of Order, you need a motion and a second. So is there a motion to authorize Mr. Delat to sign that resolution? A resolution to authorize Mr. Delat to sign that settlement? Motion by Mr. Lonnie Watts. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Ricky Goff. Fantastic. There was a lot of discussion. This has been an ongoing drug out for years. This might be the light at the end of the tunnel for Livingston Parish to get out from under this. So is there any discussion? Ms. Crosby, you want to come to the microphone and give us your thoughts?
Abby Crosby, 19866 LA Highway 42, Livingston, Louisiana, 70754. Is any of this property on Section 16 property? Section 16 property was granted to Louisiana through the federal government, and there's thousands of acres throughout the parish that belong to the federal government that they gave, and from 1820, and I believe that some of this property in this area might be some of it. Just like, has anybody checked into that?
Well, that did come up in the discussion, and in the agreement there is a requirement that must be resolved first. That has to be resolved before anything. So
it has been.
It's addressed in the settlement.
So this is the first time, because I'm asking about it, that anybody even knows about this.
Yeah, we knew about it. I mean, it's part of the settlement, I believe, isn't it?
Referring to Mr. Harris.
Part of a title search,
it's
right?
Part, yes.
The development agreement, which the council is giving Mr. DeLatte authority to sign as well, has in it that the merchantable title has acquired before the development agreement can go into effect, and there are limitations about the actions that can be done, which are pretty severe with the property until such time as they have merchantable title.
Does that answer your question, Miss?
Do you understand what that means?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, get a little closer to the microphone, if you would. So.
Okay. The development
you have to step back.
Step back. Let's get in front of the
people won't hear.
The development agreement, which is a part and parcel of the same thing, has a specific provision in it concerning merchantability of title, and the development agreement does not go into effect until such time as they have acquired merchantable title. The development agreement also has some limitations in it about any activities that they can undertake until they have acquired merchantable title. And actually the limitations are probably similar to some things that Mr. Harris brought up at one of the earlier hearings on this. So it is, in our judgment, the issue you're raising has been raised and is addressed in the document. It has been addressed in the document. The ultimate title issue to the property is going to be resolved in some court someplace.
So if it's not been
wait. You got to talk in the microphone because.
So if it's not been resolved yet of the merchantable title, then how can these people sue the parish if they don't even have a clear title to it?
There are rights that they have acquired by virtue of the legal process in the parish, and they have sued the parish to enforce the rights that they have acquired. There is a party that's currently in possession of the property with whom they have a purchase agreement, and there is a cloud on that title to some extent, and the parish is not involved in that litigation. I suspect does not want to be involved in that litigation. It will play out in a court someplace at some point in time. But in terms of the parish, what this does is deal with any rights that have been created by the parish under the parish laws and the state laws that the parish operates under.
Get back to the microphone.
So who actually owns this property besides Ascension Properties? Who's the landowners?
Okay. There is a company, a limited liability company called Livingston Holdings that claims to be the owner to the property. Livingston Holdings has signed a purchase agreement with Ascension Properties to convey the property, but that property is not going to be conveyed until such time as it is finally determined that Livingston Holdings has a merchantable title to the property to convey. If somebody tried to sell your car to somebody else, they couldn't do that until they've been established to own your car. Well, the same situation exists here.
Who is Livingston Properties?
Livingston Holdings Livingston Holdings is a limited liability company. It has a number of heirs in it. I think the late Judge Alvin Rubin and some of his children, I think, are involved in that, and there are some other people. They are probably pretty well-known descendants of pretty well-known people. But I really know not much about them, other than I recognize some of the names, and they are represented by a different law firm than Mr. Easterly. They're represented by the King Miller law firm.
The reason why I'm asking this is because there was litigation between the school board and the people that lived on Idell Lane in Front Settlement years ago. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but the school board dropped the lawsuit and gave the rights back to the people. But it was a different case because there's oil and drilling, and the timber was being sold off of it. So if this is Section 16 property, any of it, anything that's been done, it's should go through the school board, because the school board is rightfully the owner of it through federal government. Because I got a land survey on here that Mr. Coleman in the 1870s could get a proper permit or anything to survey because it was not determined who owned the rights to the property. And it's a huge chunk of Livingston Parish, including that area where all that's at. I just wanted to make that known. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby. All right, we have Ms. Sandifer had a question.
I'm not understanding how Section 16 land is tied to merchantable title. I don't think that's what you were. I'm confused. What is Section 16 land?
Section 16 land, I think, is land that was set aside by the federal government for school boards. The issue would be whether or not the current owners of the property have their title tied up by virtue of the fact that the land is subject to, came from federal land that was subject to that and wasn't properly conveyed. So I don't profess to know the title history of this property. That's beyond my mission in this case. I've done litigation like that before. I just as soon not do any again, but because it's very complicated. But the ultimate question is, do the people who are going to sell the property to Ascension Properties have good title to it? And the title can be messed up for any one of several reasons. That would be one.
Thank you.
Is there any more? Mr. Mangus has a question.
When could that be determined? What's the court date and what court?
I do not know. Mr. Harris tried to file an intervention into the federal court proceeding that the settlement's about tonight. That intervention was denied. My understanding is that he has brought a suit in state court, and that will be going through the process with the state court, and I'm not involved in it.
Could Mr. Harris answer that?
Perhaps. I think he's present.
Right now, we tentatively have a hearing Monday morning.
I'm sorry, can you please?
I'm sorry.
For everybody else.
36081 Highway 1036 Holden. We tentatively have a hearing Monday morning. As of about 3 o'clock this afternoon, 2 attorneys and myself and the judge's secretary could not confirm whether we're really going to have a hearing or not. We have no idea how long it's going to take. That's the only answer I can give you.
In which court is this?
That's in the 21st JUC. State court, sure.
Thank you.
We don't have a time frame.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
All right. We had a motion by Mr. Watts, second by Mr. Goff. And I believe you all got the resolution, Ms. Sandy. Any more questions from the audience? Any more comments from the council? Ms. Sandy, let's call for the vote.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
No.
Mr. Coates?
No.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Let's see. Did that motion carry? 5-3. That motion carried. All right?
Yep.
Wait, hold on. I just want to make sure I understand something. That vote was for Julie's resolution, correct? That was read by Steve Irving.
That is correct.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is consideration of whether to suspensively appeal the trial court judgment in the matter of Harold Marcel Parker Jr. versus Livingston and Joseph Erdy. Mr. Erdy placed this on the agenda.
Can I say something real quick? Because Steve Irving was going to explain all this to everybody, and we never got to that. But we got to continue with the agenda item, but I think the public is owed an explanation. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah. You put this on?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You have the floor.
About a month ago, I had went to trial, and the parish council had went to trial over, an appointment thing at the tourism. Anyway, after a long day, I didn't win that day, and neither did the parish win that day. But I, on consultation with my attorney, and we went over it very thoroughly, we are appealing the case because we feel like we have a very good, a good chance in winning it, in the appellate court. So we've been through this very thorough. I like where I stand. And when that night when we were at the courthouse, I want to say it in the way that it happened so everybody understands. When it ended and the judge ruled against us, Mr. Moody said, well, we lost and that's that. And now, today, all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, I get a letter, email right here saying, we should appeal this. We have a 50-50 chance of winning now. So that means if we wait longer, we'll get to 100, so I'm just saying that all of a sudden we jumped up from it's over with 0, and now the council here has a 50% chance or more to, if the council appeals their end of the deal. So I'd like somebody to understand this, and I just want to say, by the way, I'm not here to cost the council or this parish any money. When I do this appeal, I'm paying this out of my pocket with my money, and nobody's all the way. So it's not going to cost y'all a dime or this parish or anybody up here. I'm going to pay it out of my pocket to try to win this case. Now the question is, what does the council do now that their chances have improved that they can maybe win this case? It's worth thinking about, and I'd like the council to at least have some input into this. So you can leave it alone and do nothing. The time is eventually going to run out, but I'm moving forward no matter what. I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to try to win my case on that. So I want everybody to know that.
I have a question.
Ms. Sanford.
Under this agenda item, can we ask our legal to appeal as well?
You can, and just I don't want to go into the details of a confidential letter that was sent to the council.
I did mean to address you on some of this, Brad. I apologize.
That's okay.
Because Mr. Moody did send this. You're part of it, Mr. Moody, and so all of a sudden, here it is, 50% from 0 to 50, just like that.
Well, again, I don't want to go into the details of a confidential letter that was sent.
Pull your mic into you.
I don't want to go into details of a confidential letter that was sent between an attorney and their client. That being said, I don't think it was ever 0. And I think what Mr. Moody was trying to convey to the council is, look, and I don't want to go too much into detail, but let's look at what we're fighting over. If this council wants to appeal, we are ready, and we will file an appeal, and we will fight hard for you, just like we did in the very beginning. But I want y'all to consider what you're fighting for. We're fighting for a board appointment on the tourism board for the next year and a half. If we win, we're still going to pay a lot of fees, and it's going to cost the parish money to win. And if we lose, then we have an actual judgment against us. And there has been an offer to settle this without having to have a judgment, because like we discussed in the back, if you get a judgment that you got to pay, it opens up a lot of other doors. And I just need that to be considered.
Ms. Sandiford?
I do.
Open your mic.
I'm asking a genuine question.
Yes, ma'am.
How long are we going to have that held over our heads? Because that's a big, heavy holdover. And can we just address it? I don't know what that means. I don't know how loaded of a question I just asked you is.
It's always going to be an issue. It depends on how many judgments are out there. You know, the more lawsuits the parish gets itself into, the more judgments that it gets, filed against it, the bigger of an issue it's going to become.
It just seems that it is such an issue that it in a sense, I feel backed into a corner often.
Look, if y'all want to move forward, we're here to fight. We're going to do whatever y'all want to do. I have a legal and ethical obligation to give you the best advice and be totally transparent with you and give you all the information I can give you. And the decision's ultimately yours. I don't want you to feel like you're backed into a corner. I'm not the person that's going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what your options are, what the outcomes look like either way, what the consequences are depending on what option you choose. But whatever option you ultimately choose, I'm here to support you.
All right. Any more comments regarding item 22, Mr. Joe? Not so much. Item 23, discussion of outstanding judgment against the parish. Mr. Joe Erdy.
Yeah, just in doing research, in general for everything I got going on, I ran across this thing with Hurricane Gustav, and I didn't know anything about it. And before I get into it, let me get into it, then I'll say what I want to say. But when the hurricane came through and there was cleanup needed for Livingston Parish, IED did a debris contract for Gustav for Livingston Parish. And we hired a monitor who was supposed to confirm amounts of debris pickup. It was all from parish property, roads, and ditches. FEMA denied claims because the monitor allegedly to have falsified all the claims reports to IED. They had to borrow money to pay the subcontractor when the parish did not get reimbursed from FEMA. And then the parish failed to pay IED $63 million approximate dollars that is still owed as of today. And in addition to that, with that contract, with that judgment against us, as long as it's within the state and not federal, we are not going to pay any other judgments before this one is paid. Am I right on that? This one has to be paid first before any other judgment can be paid.
If you pay one, you have to pay them all. So it's not necessarily in order. It's just, and on that case, again, that was before you guys, that was before me. But in my research into that, my understanding of it is there's not actually a judgment yet in that case. It's still pending. I think there's some firm up in D.C. that's filing appeals on that. I'm not really 100% sure. That was long before any of us.
Well, and one of the other questions is a lot of us are new up here. How come we wasn't informed that this was city, like in any other judgments? How come we're not informed of things like this? So all of a sudden it just popped up, and I'm surprised as heck, and why didn't all of us be notified? Hey, y'all got these things out there to remember to deal with, that it could come into play. And
I agree. I think that's a good question for whoever's handling it.
I think that we're not being informed enough to what's going on. And I just got lucky and stumbled across it just playing around researching. I just feel like when we got issues under, I'm going to say under the table, but that we need to be told about these things, not found out because you just accidentally found out about it.
Well, if you would like, Mr. Erdy, I'll be more than happy to go back and try to do a comprehensive report of any outstanding issues that may have existed before any of our involvement, like this one. I wasn't around for that, obviously. And so anything that happened before us, we can try to put together something to catch everybody up. Hopefully there's not that many outstanding issues, right, that pre-exist us. But the ones that are out there, I think everybody needs to be made aware of.
So, and like I said, if you pay one, you pay them all. But from what I can understand, this is at the top of the list to be paid. But from my research on it, so it's sort of like this: if the parish lost a suit and $30,000 was owed, we wouldn't have to pay a dime unless we pay this one. You got to pay one so you can pay the other. Is that correct?
Well,
or you got to pay them all. When you pay one, you got to pay them all.
You can't treat any of them differently than any of the rest of them.
But this one is kind of in the way of things. It's sitting in the way of things, right? So right now,
it's hanging over everyone's head.
That's what I want to.
It's in the back of their mind.
Everybody to know that it's out there just hanging around.
Correct.
So,
I want to say this too, Joe. I agree with you. Maybe we should have been told about it, but I found out about it from it being on the agenda, and I called Randy DeLatte and got all the information I was looking for. And I think we as a council have an obligation to call Randy when we have issues or we don't understand something. I think Randy vowed transparency to not only the people but to the council. And I'm not, please don't take it as me trying to point the finger at you, but I was in the same boat you were in. I didn't know nothing about this agenda item, but I picked up the phone and I called Randy and he gave me the information I was looking for. But I do agree to the aspect of we should have been told about it. But again, it was before us. It was before Randy. It was before Brad and Chris Moody. And I don't even know when the lawsuit was. I mean, what was it, the 90s or 2000s?
Gustav was
2008.
2008,
yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
You had something, Brad?
Well, I was going to say on number 22 was the consideration to file a suspensive appeal. There's a time frame for that, and so we may. I don't know if y'all want to take action tonight or y'all want to, but that actually calls for a vote one way or the other.
What's the time frame?
Unless y'all wanted to table it.
What's the time frame?
Well, that's 30 days for a suspensive appeal.
I think it's.
Has the finding of fact come out yet on that?
A judgment has not been signed yet.
Okay.
We do have more. We do have more time.
We have more time.
Okay.
I think if we want to appeal it, we probably should do that, but that's not what I was going to say.
Well, there's no judgment. How do we appeal it?
Yeah. You have to wait for it to be signed off on.
Tuesday?
Oh, sorry. I must have missed that.
When it's signed off, you got 30 days.
Gotcha.
30 days after that.
So I need you to explain this to me because I don't understand.
Yes, ma'am.
This debris cleanup lawsuit for how much?
63 million.
Has that affected every lawsuit against Livingston Parish government since and influenced it? I mean, has it affected it? Like, I just need I need to understand.
On federal lawsuits, correct?
Right. So any federal lawsuit is going to be handled the same way regardless of that. Like I don't think it necessarily affects every lawsuit. No, I don't.
Not a
state.
But well, if there is a lawsuit that the parish, and again, I'm not trying to go into too many details, I know, but meaning if they're in general, if there is a lawsuit that the parish is it's not looking favorable, right? It's looking like you're going to lose and you're going to get slapped with a judgment. Once you are hit with that judgment, it's too late. Now, if it's one that we're winning, we don't even, obviously we're moving forward. But if it's one that the odds are not in our favor, it's better to settle that before it gets to a judgment, because you can pay a settlement as a compromise without having to have a judgment, which opens you up to paying other judgments. If that,
yeah,
about as clear as mud.
No, I do understand what you're saying. I just, I feel a little slighted over the current federal lawsuit, I guess is what's churning through my mind. Thank you for explaining it. I do understand what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to delve into that deeper in the future.
I would too, actually.
Okay.
Well,
thank you for explaining
I just want to say, if you use it like if we decide to or when we decide to, it's been 15 years. How long does this go on? Forever? That's been 16 years since the storm.
Again, I'm not handling that. That's somebody else somewhere else.
It's got to end somewhere at some time.
Mr. Coates, you had something?
Do we have a
Yes,
motion here?
I've done a little research on this as well, and it's my appreciation that there are a lot of allegations made in this case that I don't think it's that far-fetched for us to be okay on a situation like this. There's a lot of alleged misconduct that had been perpetrated by the monitors that were supposed to be giving us the advice on how FEMA guidelines are set forth. There's been there's been a statement in the paper made by former parish president saying that he's not going to sue local companies regardless if they're wrong or not. There's just a lot of stuff going on in this case. So I just want to throw that in there. And there is no verdict that I understand. No verdict has come out on this. It's still pending.
All right, anybody else? None being? All right, we're going to go to, unless there's a motion or anything, so none being, we'll move on.
I don't have nothing to say.
No motion.
Good. Next item is committee reports. Finance Committee, Mr. Mangus.
Finance Committee, we had Mr. McMorris speak to us, and he explained about the audit and that the audit is basically finished, and they will be getting stuff to us at the next, not stuff, but I'm sorry, audit reports. I apologize, it's late. At the next Finance Committee meeting. So we'll have that. Also, Mr. Gillette gave us an update on work has started on the roof of the detention center. So that's good. And I think that's about it for Finance Committee.
All right, next item, Ordinance Committee, Mr. Coates.
Yes, sir. We met on Tuesday, and we had a long discussion regarding the development agreement. All of that was taken care of today during the council meeting, and we're still working on that moving into the future, I would suspect, with Mr. Delat. And other than that, bring any ordinances to us. We'd like to try to get input from all the council members and the public on anything that's going through as an ordinance so that we can work out the kinks before it gets to the council.
All right, next item, Mr. Brad, is there anything you want to add, words of wisdom?
I have one thing for the ordinance committee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Discussion, and I know this is a tough item in general, but I would, and I'll be more than happy to help as well if we can sit down with Mr. Jerome and try low-hanging fruit, try to get something approved sooner than later in reference to our minor subdivisions without improvements. When someone does a 9-lot subdivision and puts a private road, and then the people, even though they sign their paperwork and know that it's a private road, then it gets tore up. And that's why we do the 60-foot right-of-way, where eventually if we have to go in there. But we need to try, and that's a tough task there. That's a tough task to figure a way to try to alleviate it or something. I don't know. The other thing is that what I'd like for us to look at is our mobile home. And I know Mr. Mangus has looked at this a little bit. And we do not have a year restriction, and I know that's going to be a sore subject for a lot of people, but we're here for smart growth and for getting this parish pointed in the right direction. So the one thing that concerns me, and so is if someone takes a piece of property, 1 acre, and I want to say, Ms. Dee Dee, you can clarify me, I want to say that a mobile home can go on a lot as small as 19,000 square feet or 16,000 square feet. Okay.
She said it needs to be a half acre.
Half an acre. I'll figure out what that square footage is. It's not necessary. I'll figure out what that square footage is. But what happens is someone can take a piece of property, let's say a 1 acre, and they can subdivide that out probably 3 times and put 3 mobile homes on it. So I'm perfectly fine with a family member trying to subdivide their property and put the mobile home on it for a young couple, or a young couple buying a piece of property and putting their mobile home on it, etc. But where I have a difficult time is a developer doing it and renting out the property and really can put whatever year model mobile home they wish on it. And also, no skirting we need to do a better job of that and make sure that if they are going to subdivide that property out and for that direction, we need to do a better job, I think. And I'd be happy to try to sit down and listen and look at that. But I think that's very important right now until we get our ordinances in place. And I think if we just do the year model, anything that's there now stays. But if we can do even if it's a 10 or 15 year mobile home, but also require skirting and some other things.
Ricky, I want to say, Tuesday I spent 5 hours up here at the council office with Caroline. I've got 11 ordinances that I'm working on that cover everything you just mentioned, and I've given them to Jerome, and Jerome and I are working together to put them into effect. And I'd love to have your input on them. So I'm everything I'm working on covers exactly what you just mentioned.
Awesome.
Yep.
It's definitely needed.
Fantastic.
Sure.
Thank you, Ryan. And maybe once y'all get close, you can run by the ordinance committee, get everybody involved.
Absolutely.
And we'll bring it to the council. Brad, I think you had any more words of wisdom?
I wanted to thank the Livingston Parish Chamber of Commerce and the Livingston Young Professionals. They invited me to go speak at their luncheon earlier this week. It was a really good organization, and I would encourage anybody that's not involved with them yet to look into it.
Thank you. Mr. Mangus has something?
I just wanted to say thank you, Miss Andrea Bell, for doing our Pledge of Allegiance. Also, I want to give a shout out to Sunday, August 4th, third annual Back to School giveaway, and that's going to be at the LM Lockhart Center Gymnasium, 320 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, Denham Springs, Louisiana. And it's sponsored by several different organizations. Events begin at 2 p.m. There's food, fun, drinks, music, free haircuts, all that. And pre-filled backpacks. Wow. Pre-filled.
Wow.
So. That's August 4th, Sunday, August 4th.
Thank you for all you do. Any more comments?
Yeah.
That gentleman looks proud sitting beside you there.
Mr. Hardy, you had a comment?
Yeah, we down in the Hungarian settlement just had a special meeting here a few days ago. We're getting ready again for the harvest dance, which is almost here. It's like 10 weeks away. And and y'all been really kind to us. You gave me the opportunity to speak, decorate, things like that. So we'll keep you abreast of that. But we're just starting to put together our work crew and get organized. And that's about first Saturday in October for everybody that might try to attend. All right, thank y'all.
That's fantastic. Mr. Coates.
I just want to know where those free haircuts going to be.
You got to give him a discount, though. That's all I got to say. Free. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn this wonderful meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Mangus, second by Mr. Watts. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
That motion carried unanimous. Any opposed? None being. I declare this meeting adjourned.